welcome into Bourbon and Bullshit today. You know what? Before we even start, every time I listen to the intro, I wish it was longer. yeah,
It's got a great groove.
it's a nice little groovy little melody. But today we are here with Tom Lucas from Heavy Drinker. Now, Heavy Drinker is a unique product that has I'm gonna let him talk about it. But we found each other on social media, saw that this product made sense for anyone who wants to be a whiskey aficionado or anyone who wants to enjoy any spirit neat, as we've been talking about recently with National Tequila Day and all these other spirits. But I'll let Tom go ahead and talk to us about the product. Heavy Drinker, tell us about it, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Great to be on the show, man. I appreciate you reaching out, and I'm glad we can connect this way. So this kind of started off as I was very jealous of the Norland glass, and it started out as a weight thing, and it still is a weight thing. I think a heavy glass like the Norland glass, I think they have one now that's like 1.5 pounds or 2 pounds. It's a way to connect yourself to the experience. And I went down the rabbit hole of going, how can I add weight to something that's glass without putting lead in it? Obviously, that's the easy way to do it.
Yeah.
I have a friend, I have a couple of different companies, and one of my friends is a 3D printing guy. And he said, well, why don't I print you something, like instead of going down the rabbit hole with trying to carve something or why don't I print some stuff? And he's a fantastic design guy. If anybody considers this product beautiful, it's because of Will. It's not because of me. But he turned me on to the idea of making a metal base for it. And the metal base turned out, when I got the original run done, I think I had like 3 prototypes made. It was way too heavy. I didn't know anything about 304 stainless steel other than it was pretty, right? So I got it, and it was 1.8 pounds, it's like 980 grams. And I had originally thought I was going to put it on the bottom of the glass, but I didn't. And just as a lark one day, I was watching somebody take a Norland glass, which is a fairly like big pile of glass. Like there's a fair amount of mass there, and they chucked it in their freezer. And I'm like, wait a minute, I got a piece of stainless steel. Hold on a second. So we went through a couple of design changes and phases. And one of the things we came up with was, in order to have this thing take heat out of the glass, you're going to want surface area. So the first thing that Will came up with was this dip. So the dip takes this amount of circle, right? It takes this diameter of glass, but you're adding surface area because this now presses in. So this has more surface area than just a flat bottom glass. And once I saw that, I'm like, dude, that's a mountain. And can we make it so that it has a measurement in it? And that's where the whole product came from, really. Was that back and forth with my designer, Will. And it ended up being
how much is the bottom weight? Because I remember seeing it online. Look,
1.8 pounds, which it's hard to put it in the context. It's about as heavy as a 6-pin bowling ball. It's substantial. It's substantial. Right? If you think of like a 2-pound weight, when you're doing weight, you're lifting weights with a 2-pound weight, it doesn't feel like that much, but it's for something that it's not a weight that you're going to use for exercise. It's actually pretty heavy. And it holds, it depends too. And again, like this is a learning curve for us too, because I found out that my bar fridge, the freezer on my bar fridge, is substantially warmer than the freezer on my fridge, which is substantially warmer than my chest freezer downstairs, where I have all my frozen vegetables and meat. If I put it in the chest freezer, it'll keep things cold for a solid hour at ambient room temperature, because it gets very, very much colder in one of those freezers than it does in something like a bar fridge. So, but the idea is you take this and leave it in your freezer, and when you need it, you grab it. And the kit comes with a coaster. We have a leather coaster, brand of leather.
Let's talk about a little bit more about the brand. So everyone who knows the show, we actually connected before you came up with the full retail kit. So it was just a base, it was just a glass, and you had some stuff in the on the docket for the future. So you recently came out with this whole retail kit. For those who haven't, or obviously for those listening at home, it's who haven't seen this glass, it might look, oh, it's going to be fine to pick up. No, it's heavy. It could be a weapon if you really wanted it to.
Definitely could hurt somebody if you chucked it at their head.
Yeah. One of the things I've been utilizing is the heavy base. Like I use it as basically a coaster. I put it on like my desktop. I lift just the glass so I can drink. So it's chilled. I don't really worry about it. And it's just there. So it's kind of present. But it is pretty dope. So now you have a retail kit, and it has leather handmade coasters as well.
Yes. So the coaster comes with it. I've found that if you do put this in like a chest freezer, it gets really cold. It's actually kind of hard to handle. Like, I mean, almost painful. So the
Hmm.
reason I wanted to put the coaster in is because you can then take this and drop it on the coaster. And I typically carry it around like that.
Oh,
And I don't
like a
touch it.
little, like a claw.
Yeah, it's literally like a little cloth. You can just, if you slide too hard, it'll slide off. But if you just
Yeah.
tuck it into the bottom of your hand, you can now move it around. So I typically go from my kitchen fridge,
Yeah.
my kitchen freezer to out to my back deck. And I just plop it on the arm of my chair. And then I grab my glass and pop my glass on and I'm done. Um,
Awesome, man.
Retail box is actually you. You helped develop this because I sent you the first sample and it destroyed it.
Did I really? That's awesome.
When I sent it down to you, this basically acted like a piston in the box, and I had put some, I think, bubble wrap or something in there, and this
Uh-huh.
just went back and forth. The UPS just did this with it, and it turned the glass to powder. So that experience was like, I'm going to have to come up with a box that it makes the product survivable.
Yeah,
So
guys. I,
um,
Tom was gracious enough to try it twice. He said and tried it twice. When it did come to me, the base was intact, but the rest was powdered glass.
the base is bomb proof. If anybody ever actually breaks this base somehow, I'll happily give them another one because you've done something, spectacular. Like you launched it into space and had it come back in and burn up in reentry or something.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so I realized I had to come up with something more than just a box with some bubble wrap in it. So what I ended up doing is I got a custom cut foam and then
That's
the glass
awesome.
goes
That's
in.
pretty
And
dope, man.
this is survivable. And actually, you know what? Because it is very well fit. You could actually I've had a couple of customers just cut the lid off, and then
Mhm.
they just store it like that on their bar. So
That's
it's
actually pretty dope.
a presentation piece. Yeah.
Yeah, and you do have one of the best like logos. I love the heavy drinker logo. Like I've always been a fan of it since I've seen it. It's unique. It stands out, and it's telling you the message exactly what it is.
I
Um,
have a little bit of marketing experience, and I always like logos to be something. If you can't print it on letterhead in black and white, it's probably
mhm,
too complex, right?
exactly.
And it's heavy drinker. It's got a little wave in it, and it does look okay separate too. There's another version where it's lengthwise, so you can put it on like letterhead and stuff. But yeah, no, it
Yeah.
turns out good.
I ran into that situation with my logo as well. I had to come up with a couple versions, some for like podcast covers and some for merch, but
Yeah,
that's for a different day. So
yeah.
we did jump the gun a little bit. I want people to get to know you, the man behind the product as well. Talk to you about so I know that last we spoke and connected a little bit, talked about you travel a lot for work. You do a lot on the road stuff, but what have you been watching, reading, or anything that you've been listening to other than our podcast, of course? And for those who did not know, Tom is from Canada. So our brothers in the North. So things are a little bit different out there. So I'll let you kind of give people a little insight about what you've been keeping busy with through your line of work.
So I'm what my wife calls a serial entrepreneur.
Mm,
I've got a few different companies that I used to work for the electric company, for lack of a better phrase, and I
mm,
got lucky when I was 35. They downsized. That sounds not like it's lucky, but it was because I got a package. They gave me a very good package. It was a union shop, and I took that money and threw it at the wall and started a few companies with a few of my friends, to be honest with you. And I think we started about 5 different things, fully expecting at least 2 or 3 of them to fly into the side of a mountain. And they all turned out to be reasonably successful, which made me a
mm.
very busy guy and hence all the traveling. Um,
Yeah.
so I have a company that makes body armor. I have a company that does software for firefighter training. I've got a company that sews textiles. So we make like body plate carriers and
Mm,
carriers for body armor, which is, those two companies kind of go hand in hand. And this is really my labor of love. I do this because pretty much my role in all those other companies is chief technology officer. I don't really make anything. I do
mm,
digital stuff and it just goes off into the internet and I don't really make anything. And I had that same problem when I was working in it. I was IT at the electric company too.
mm.
So I really wanted to start doing something and of course I'm a geek, like I'm an IT geek. So
Yeah.
I have the tabletop CNC machine that's going to be doing base prototyping in my garage. And,
Mhm.
I work with Will, my designer, in SolidWorks. So there's still a fair amount of IT stuff that I do, but at least at the end of the day, I have this thing that lands in my lap after being made. And I have something physical I can hang on to. And that's really rewarding, and it's one of the things that keeps me sane like right now because it's small scale. It's not taking it's like, I mean, it'd be great if it took off, but I don't really I don't really have that aspiration for the company. I don't want to make a million of these things. I'd like it to keep it very small and intimate and
That's fair.
rewarding.
That's fair. Yeah. And I think I'll tell you completely honestly, I've had people reach out to me, especially from that follow the page. And when I've put your product and put the glass on display, they're like, hey, where'd you get that? Hey, where's the link? I remember reaching out to you, like, hey, where's the shop? I need to send this link to a couple people.
Yeah.
So I know that I told them that Soapstone might come out soon. That there's some things that kind of on the agenda, so they were keeping an eye out for that. Bourbon societies of Central Florida and all these other Volusia County Bourbon Society, all these other pages. When they see the product, they're like, "Hey, that might be really good." So
Yeah.
there's a market there, especially for customization and all that. I mean, Age de Noir
I
is a
think
really
there is.
good example of it.
Yeah, I
Like,
think there is. And I think, and again, like one of the nice things about this is it's an ongoing process. So
mhm,
people give me feedback. So, and I didn't think of this. I was here last night.
mhm,
There was a mixer last night, and we were in the bar, and some guys were drinking Courvoisier. We were into the XO,
mhm.
and the guy's like, "Hey, could I throw that in the oven and keep my cognac warm?" And I'm like, yeah, it's stainless steel. Just don't burn yourself.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know what temperature you want to keep your cognac at, but if you can get a space that is that temperature and stick this base in there, it will keep things warm just as well as it'll keep them cool.
Yeah, like a Yeti or anything else
Yeah,
like that kind of.
right.
I
So,
did not realize that people like their cognac like warm like that.
yeah, well, I mean, anything like I've seen, we've all seen the movie where the guy has like he takes a snifter and there like he holds it over a candle or something like that. I think I remember that from a movie when I was a kid.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I like it like hand warm, but I don't know how warm you much more high
yeah.
temperature you want that, right?
Short of a
At some
hottie,
point in
hot
the
toddy or
podcast,
something.
yeah, at some point you're evaporating the alcohol and you're just getting the alcohol nose and it kind of ruins the whole experience. But
That's what I was about to say. Also, like,
you know what?
not
You want to take my glass and stick it in the oven? It's
yeah,
free country, man. You can do
yeah.
whatever you want,
To each their
right?
own. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
what have you been listening to or audio or whatever you've been doing during these like all this traveling and keeping busy?
So I'm an Audible guy, and I fell in love with the Andy Weir wrote The Martian, and it almost
Hmm.
instantly turned into a movie. But the book is fantastic, and the book has been narrated by two people. One was Will Wheaton, who people
I
would
love
know
what
as,
we.
yeah, and he's actually really easy to listen to.
Yeah.
And another guy who I fell in love with when he read The Martian. His name's R.C. Bray, and R.C. Bray, as he's just so talented as a voice actor. It's unbelievable, and he's been narrating a book series called Expeditionary Force,
Hmm.
and like book 16 now. And each of these books is 3 to 5 hours. So
That's not
that's
bad.
what I do. If I'm driving, I throw on Audible and it just goes along until I get into an urban area. Like when you're downtown, you got to kind of focus. So I turn it off. But
Mhm.
when I'm on the highway, just barreling down like an interstate or the 401 up here, just that's what I do. I absolutely love those. I have been getting into podcasts more, but I find I like to sit down and listen to a podcast like this. I like to sit down and just let it happen and be comfortable. It's not podcasts don't work for me driving somehow. I don't know why.
I could see that, especially if you have to. Podcasts feel conversational. I think if it's done well, you almost want to argue with the person or
Dude,
like have a discussion.
when I'm listening to your podcast, if I'm not laughing, I'm answering. I'm
See,
involved, right? I'm having the conversation, and even I'm just talking over your guests, like, well, in my opinion, that's bullshit, right? Fucking, but yeah,
yeah,
that's how it works. Though.
I'm glad to hear that because the goal is to be conversational. But I think like
Yeah,
even like one of my favorite podcasters is Dan Cummings and Lindsay Cummings. They do a Scared to Death and he does the Time Suck and he does all these other things. And if there's
right.
another person in the room with him that so it doesn't feel like audible storytelling, and if it's like he's talking to someone,
Yeah,
I have like I go back because I want to hear like have the conversation with people. I have to be focused on it. And I feel like what the fuck? Like I've been walking my dog and it sounds like I'm a lunatic because I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like like and I'm like arguing with the air. And my dog is like, are we doing something? What happened here? Like, are you mad?
You're talking
Like,
to me. What's going on? Yeah,
yeah.
that
So
makes a lot
yeah,
of sense.
I get it. And the audibles, Will Wheaton, and I think that what's your opinion? Like the voice makes the book, or is the book content enough?
Oh, hmm. I don't, man. RC Bray is so good. I honestly think
Uh-huh.
he could take a crappy narrative and probably make it good.
Really?
But Yeah, he's just a delight to listen to. And the man is ridiculous at being able to do voices. So I think in Expeditionary Force, I think there's probably about 15 main characters,
Mm.
and he voices all of them. And
In
when
different
he's
like
recording it, he
tones
usually
or
voices them in real time. So if there's two or three people having a conversation that is he's reading out of the book, he'll just do each person in real time as he's recording. They don't go back and like do, channel one is this character, channel two is this character, and
that's
everything else.
fucking dope. That is
It's
brilliant.
nuts. Like I've seen video of him doing it, and the other thing that's fantastic is that they do the outtakes.
Mm.
So, because he'll screw it up, but he screws it up, and he's a really good sport. Like I don't, I'm sure there's some point where he gets pissed off and goes, you know what, I got to take a break. We'll pick it up tomorrow. But his bloopers are epic. His bloopers are
Yeah.
fantastic.
Sometimes it's
But
good to step away, especially if you're fucking things up and you're stuck.
yeah, you know what? Sometimes you just gotta, you know what? It's not working, and pushing harder is just gonna make me more frustrated and make it more broken. I'm just gonna walk away and come back fresh. And
Yeah,
I definitely do that sometimes,
my
especially
fiance,
working with the CNC machine, man. If it's not in the mood to do what I want it to do, okay, I'm gonna go have a burger and just maybe come back tomorrow.
my fiance will tell you that I do the same thing. There are moments I'm like, I'm gonna stop because I'm gonna break something. And like I've straight up real quick story. I actually broke my hot water heater by mistake. I was moving stuff around my garage and in frustration of like, why won't these? Because I have shelves, I have weights, I have a home gym, I have all this. It's been a mess. There's a bunch of packages, there's a bunch of things like my roommate has stuff, my fiance has stuff, and I just got frustrated. Started cleaning, and my dumbass, I'm like halfway done. I should have been lifting weights. I went into the garage to lift, but it was a mess. So I'm between sets, I'm moving stuff around, and I got frustrated. Something wouldn't move, and something on the top of my rack fell and hit my hot water heater on the very top of it.
Really?
Yes, and it's
Electric
like
or gas?
electric, but the pipe popped off. Like so, it hit it right where the pipe was. So just hot water started spraying everywhere.
Oh my God.
And in those moments, so like you said, I knew that the garage was a mess. I'm getting frustrated. I'm getting annoyed, but I wanted to finish. I should have stopped.
Yeah.
I should have stopped.
There was a line and you crossed it.
Yes. And that my dumbass sees the water, sees the pipe, and I'm trying to reach out and hold it down and immediately get burnt. Like I was, God damn it. It took a split second to go, I gotta go shut off the water
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. You're like me. When you go across the line, you get hurt, something else gets broken. It's never minor.
Yeah. It's never fucking minor. It's like, well, I gotta get a new car. What?
What?
I don't know. So it's a
Oh, honey,
valuable
we're
lesson.
going to the range, back into a tree with the SUV, destroy the back gates. Just
What happened?
we had some friends over. We went late the night before. We were packing up to go to the gun range,
Mhm.
and we were a little dehydrated. We packed the truck up, and because I had friends there, my driveway was full, and I had to weasel my way around. And as I was backing up, I just forgot there was a tree there, and wham! In my wife's SUV. Yep.
Oh
Hit it, the window
no.
popped, and the door bent in. It didn't come open, and then we couldn't open the door. And I'm like, I'm just gonna switch cars, and I'll deal with it when I get home. She didn't appreciate that
Jeez.
very much.
I
Yeah.
mean, she better have gotten a really nice car after or something.
Oh, she got a nice brand new truck now, because that vehicle that I damaged the back gate on was the one she was hitting. So
Yeah.
it's toast. It got written off, and now she's got a nice a Ram 1500.
Well, nice. She got
Which
upgraded and
ironically
she's
is
nice
the
and
truck
safe.
that hit her.
What?
She was hit by a 1500, and when we went shopping, she's like, "I love that thing. It
She's
was
like, if you
great."
can't beat him, join him. Is that what just
I
happened?
guess so, yeah. Good. Well, she loves it now because she's like, she's up off the road. She was in a
Nice.
Mazda before, so there's a substantial height difference. But if it
Yeah,
makes her feel comfortable, man, I'm all for it, and I get to drive a truck now too, so it's awesome.
it's true.
Win-win.
But I don't know. I've always been. We could do this whole what kind of car thing later on, but we're gonna take a quick commercial break just about making sure no one drinks and drive. And when we come back, we're gonna get to know Tom a little bit more and hear more about the origin story behind his brand. Be right back, guys. Hey guys, while you're listening to the show, we know that you might want to partake in some drinks with us and enjoy in the libations. Here at Bourbon and Bullshit, we ask that you drink responsibly. Don't drink and drive, avoid Amazon one-click buy, and for the love of God, do not text your ex. You do not need that kind of closure. They've moved on, so should you, Joseph. You should stop Facebook stalking. She knows. She knows. Now, All jokes aside, don't do anything dumb, take care of yourselves, and be safe. Thanks, guys. Now back to the show. For anyone who enjoys our Don't Drink and Drive and Don't Text Your Ex, it's actually being worked on for a t-shirt. The Avoid Amazon One Click Buy, Don't Drink and Drive, all that's going to be worked on a workshop for a t-shirt. That, and we have two more ideas that are coming up. One is going to be just really plain and simple. It says contains alcohol and a little bit of BS with the logo on the bottom. So looking forward to getting those done in the shop. So when those
Hell
come
yeah.
out, I'll be adding them.
Yeah,
But
hell yeah.
I think like everyone every time it's like don't drink and drive, people who listen for the first time and hear and don't text your ex, they're like, this motherfucker really brought that up. Like, yeah.
What though? I love that because I think the message gets through. I think sometimes, hey guys, be responsible, and then that hook, that
Mm-hmm.
laugh,
Mm-hmm.
I think it helps get through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they jack the volume up on the ad when because they know you're in the kitchen hitting the fridge.
Mm-hmm.
It helps it sink in.
It's true, man. Like there have been moments in the past where it's like, obviously not for me, not over the last 10 years, before my fiance says something, 10 years. Oh, it's like, man, is she up? Like, no, don't do that. Stop it. Stop it. I wish I had my ad. I'm just trying to be the person that I wish I had around me before. No. All right. So we're gonna we normally do a drink of the day, but Tom is at a kind of an event. So we didn't want to put any pressure on him to make sure that he had something poured up and drink mixed. But what is it that you're sipping on? I see a little, that's a unique flask.
Yeah, this is an Amazon special. I needed a flask. I got tired of flasks that I would try and fill, and because they're opaque, you just end up blowing all like your bourbon all over the bar. So I'm like, hey, wait a minute, a glass one. I can see how full it is and stop before I pour bourbon all over my bar. So it literally, there are a few nice ones out there. I'm actually probably going to upgrade. But yeah, this is Weiser's Red Letter. So Weiser's is Canadian whiskey, and Red Letter is a custom blend that they did a very, very, very limited release of by their master. Their master distiller did a blend, and I think they did about. I honestly, I think it was probably close to somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 bottles, and they're all gone, and they're never doing it again. So I got lucky. I got lucky, and I found some on secondary market, and I grabbed a couple. But they're going down very slowly because it's something I cherish. It's really nice, really nice. It's almost bourbony. It's very sweet, surprising
Nice.
for a rye. Yeah.
I talk about that sometimes with friends. Like there's bottles that not because like, oh my God, they're super rare. It's just you cherish a little bit of them. Like this is meant to be drank. We're gonna drink it together. But like Midwinter Night's Dram is one of my favorite bottles, and they make chapter this and scene whatever, but you'll never be able to get that blend again. And when I find one I like, I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's exactly what happened with Red Letter. Is a friend of mine had a couple of bottles from the release, and I'm like, dude, that's fantastic. It's got this really nice custard thing going on. I'm a custard guy. I used to vape, and I was the guy who had to stop vaping because apparently the custard flavor is something that basically murders you. It has a custard note to it that I haven't found in anything else, and it wasn't cheap, but I don't care.
Hey, you hit that package. Remember, you got that package. We're fine.
Yeah, exactly.
But over here, so we were going to drink a Boulevardier, but that was going to be the drink of the day because that is your go-to drink. But it is one that is really, I like it. It's underrated because people shy away from anything bitter. But do you want to talk a little bit about that and share why that was your drink of the day or your favorite drink or drink of choice normally?
It's still my favorite cocktail. If I'm getting home, like if I was home, I would actually probably have that. I just didn't want to transport the bottles to 3-hour drive.
Yeah, I imagined.
I like the balance. I sip Campari on my own, like by itself. As an aperitif, it's fantastic. I like it because of the bitterness, but there's still an undernote of sweetness with that, and it really nicely balances out the sweet vermouth, which is not really sweet. It's just it's a little less dry than regular vermouth. But my first experience with the Boulevardier was I was a bourbon guy at the time, and I'm like, I went to a bar at a hotel in my local town, and the bartender was doing fantastic work. I was watching him mix for a few other people, and I had already had a couple of bourbons because that particular bar and that particular hotel has a top shelf that's just fantastic. Wide selection, lots of cool stuff. Not everything is expensive. There's very, very attainable bottles on there. And but they've got a good depth of it. It's not like you go to your typical bar and they have like maybe 3 or 4 bottles of bourbon that is, you know, something you'd know. They're all brand
Yeah.
name.
They're all like
These guys
Angel's
have
Envy.
these guys, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, Angel's Envy, Four Roses,
Yeah.
JB, and
Mhm.
that's it. Their top shelf has got 50 bottles on it, and it's a good spectrum. So
Mhm.
I was like, "Hey, you seem to be doing good at cocktails. What about a bourbon cocktail?" And he goes, "You ever had a Boulevardier?" And I go, "What the hell's that?" He goes, "Basically, it's a Negroni with bourbon."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Do it." And I fell in love with it because the bitterness of the Campari really just lifts up whatever bourbon you put into it. And I've gone halfway across my bar with it now, um, trying to just seeing which bourbons pair better. And then you go down, you get that, and then oh well, what if I screw with the ratios a bit? So you're going with different bourbons, and then you're moving the ratios around, and it's a rabbit hole. Like I've been working on that. I've been playing with Boulevardier for like a year and a half now, and I don't think I've even come to the point where I've explored everything in it.
That's pretty dope.
It's three simple ingredients,
Yeah.
it's incredible.
Campari, sweet red, vermouth, rye, and or bourbon.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's a pretty easy to make. And you're right though. Everyone shies away from a lot of people shy away from Campari because of bitterness.
yeah.
It's not that bitter. And come on, you can't have sweet all the time. Sugar and sweetness and all that's overpowering a lot of the times. And there's about balance. And I think that giving yourself tastes of different parts of the spectrum of flavor profiles, umami, sweet, salty, savory, all the stuff that they talk about. Bitter is good.
Yeah.
I think I joke with my friends, and I'm gonna be a little bit of an asshole. It's like if you're shying away from Campari, grow up. It's fine. Like it's one day you'll have an adult drink. Uh,
You know
big,
what? If you don't like it, that's fine, but try it.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Try it, give it a
You know,
shot. If you don't like it, you don't like it. I won't tell people that anything about you like what you like. We talk about on the show. You can put your whiskey neat, put some rocks on it, drop some water in it, mix it with anything. I don't care. It's your
yeah,
alcohol.
yeah.
Uh,
I get that sometimes too. Like, oh, well, what do you got against ice? I don't have anything against ice. I just don't like ice in my bourbon.
yeah,
You want to put ice in your bourbon? Again, it's a free country, man. Do whatever you want.
yeah.
There's times when I don't mind an ice cube,
Mm,
particular bourbons and whiskeys, because it works. It opens them up, right? Cuts
yeah,
the oil and it makes things different and awesome. But for the most part, I like stuff neat.
yeah. I think different ways of having it is going to give you different appreciation for it in different aspects. It's just do what feels good for you. I mean, short of fucking destroying it with like Mountain Dew, but
Oh,
apparently
dude,
that's a thing.
I saw Pappy and Coke the other day, and I'm like, oh, maybe freedom shouldn't be free. But anyway,
Look, if you can afford Pappy, I can't tell you what to do with it.
I can't. I
Yeah, I
can't.
can't. I can't. That you did that. like that's not me.
You know what? It probably tastes awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Freaking
having that
Pappy.
having that much expendable income should taste awesome. Listen,
I
like
agree.
everything you should do from that point on should taste fantastic. Put caviar
Exactly.
on your pizza for all I care. I don't care. Like you go
Yep.
ahead. I can't tell
Pappy
you
and
how to live.
pizza. Well, I'd try that. I'd try a slice with a blast of Pappy. Damn right I would.
Yeah, there was a show online. It's like David. It's like he cooks live on Netflix. It's like he makes the Mugu Foko. I don't know. David
Oh,
Chang.
Momofuku.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
made those noodles.
Yes.
Uh,
I can't remember
David
his name. I saw
Chang
him on Bourdain.
Netflix show.
Bourdain
I
had
forgot.
one. Yeah.
But he had an episode where he was combining like it's watch dinner time. It's called Dinner Time Live with David Chang. My
Right.
dumbass couldn't remember that. He had like Seth Rogen or something like that, and they were combining like extremes, really, really expensive with like fucking White House burgers, like White Castle burgers. Um,
White.
White Castle burgers, like it was like shit like that. And what the fuck? And they put like really expensive caviar on pizza, and they're like, "This is the best thing I've ever fucking had."
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, "Oh hell!" So yeah, I can't tell the dude with Pappies and Coke what to do in his life.
That's
Apparently, I'm
true.
missing out on a whole side of the world.
Yeah, I never
That,
thought of beluga and pizza.
but
It's got to be a thing somewhere. It's got to be a thing somewhere. I mean, in
every
Canada, we put pineapple on it.
that's gross. No, we can't do that. I'm not doing it. We will not stand for that on this show.
And ham,
uh,
pineapple and ham.
Listen, all I'm saying is if anyone wants me to try Pappy with Coke, sign up for the Patreon. Just just donate, please do. Uh, I want to talk a little bit about the shape and the brand for the heavy drinker. I know that we talked a little bit about you're spitballing, you're playing with the idea with your Chris. Was it Chris?
Will's my
Will.
designer.
So Will, the designer. But the Harper glass design is based off of a mountain.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So the company itself has a very masculine lilt.
Mhm,
I'm a big fan of Jack Donovan. I'm a big fan of the Stoics. Um, I don't think there's a problem with masculinity. Uh,
mhm,
I I know for a fact that toxic masculinity was hijacked. Toxic masculinity as a phrase, as a two-word phrase, never had anything to do with people outside of jail. That toxic masculinity was pulled from a study about how men dominate men in prison systems. That's where
mhm,
toxic masculinity came from. It's somebody plucked that out because it sounded good and started splashing it all over the place, talking about men in general. It was never meant to do that. And
mhm,
I actually take quite a bit of offense to that. I don't like that term.
mhm.
Uh, and I'm a sheepdog. I'm ex-military. I was a firefighter.
Oh,
Um, I'm service oriented, and I
mhm.
think that's been misinterpreted by people. So
Wait, the service or being in service?
just being service minded, I think what people call toxic masculinity is guys trying to solve problems and doing it the only way we're allowed to do it. We have fairly heavy restrictions into what we're allowed to do and what we're perceived as being supposed to do as men. And when I started the company, I wanted it to be pro male. I wanted it to be about guys doing guy things in guy ways.
Mm,
And one of the things I wanted to do is for every glass that we release, I wanted to build it around a legend of some guy who did something awesome
mm,
or achieved something, right? And Harper's the guy of a team of four guys. Harper was the first guy to set foot on the top of Denali. And Denali is it's a everybody talks about Everest, and that's fine. Everest is a hard climb, but you start at a base camp at 16,000 feet with Everest. If you want to summit Denali, you start 200 feet below sea level at the base of the mountain, and it's three times the climb. It's absolutely the toughest mountain on the planet to climb, and these guys did it with like wooden sticks and woolen scarves. Right? There was no oxygen masks. There was no Sherpas. There was no this was guys doing something incredibly difficult and incredibly dangerous. And I fell in love with it. And it's a story not many people ever hear because Everest kind of overshadows everything. And now Everest is basically a
tourist trap,
it's a
basically.
landfill. It's basically a landfill. Right.
Yeah, I've seen those articles they talk about like all the trash, all the bodies that they don't even move. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. There's like 16 tons of human waste on the side of the mountain now.
it's fucking
But
terrible. But
um,
you're right though. Like to be honest, you hear Kilimanjaro, you hear Mount Everest, you don't hear Denali very often, other than the Yukon.
uh,
Not a sponsor. Um,
yeah, it's on a car or on a truck, and that's where people hear about it, and they don't really know what it is.
so that design, that weight, and all that you said you want to celebrate like masculinity and what men do and make a brand for men. Outside of the glass, were there other products prior to this? I'm going to get back to the glass and the design, but were there other products with that in mind as well? I know we make body armor and all that, but that's universal.
Um,
Everyone who everyone could wear
yeah,
body armor.
well, and
Um,
it goes back to being that sheepdog role, right?
mhm,
People men who are in service. So if you join the military, you're serving your country. If you join um, uh,
firefighters.
firefighting, you're serving your community. If you're a police officer, you're serving your community. And I always been attracted to those kinds of companies.
Mm,
I being ex-military, I have a lot of military contacts, a lot of law enforcement contacts, and that's where we fell into making body armor.
mm,
So, um, and the firefighting thing, the motto of the company that does it's called Stillwater Consulting. We do firefighter training software. The motto of that is reduce line of death in line of death injuries, line of duty death and injury through superior training.
mm.
So um, I kind of have masculine companies. They
Yeah,
just develop that way. But it's because of the people I hang around with because of my career choices, right?
yeah, I get it. I know that obviously with firefighting, body armor, all that, that's universal, men, women alike and all that.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so with the, you wanted to make products that were more in line with like, because there's nothing wrong wanting to make something for men. There's nothing wrong with any of that.
Yeah.
But do you have another idea or anything else that's also coming down the pipeline that's going to be also in that same vein or similar vein that you feel kind of speaks more to that side of things or celebrating more of male accomplishments? Or
Well, the next glass is going to be called the Solomon. And I don't want to go into too much detail on it because I don't want to give away the legend. But if you Google Solomon, there's only 3 or 4 different directions it's going to go.
do you see
Um,
the name of my bottle?
so, but yeah, and I mean the other overriding message that I tried to get across on the website, and I'm still working on marketing, and I still talk to people about it, is the idea that it's okay to stop and take a break.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and cherish some time. I
Mm,
know guys very regularly get pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. We're providers, and I'm not. Again, I have to always offset this by saying, yes, I know there's single mom firefighters out there who do all of this stuff too.
mm,
That's I'm sure that there's somebody out there who's looking out for them. That's not my role. My role is to look out for my brothers, right?
yeah.
And the idea that we need to take some time to stop and take stock, get grateful, but just literally stop. Like one of our hashtags is stop culture, right? And it's not, we don't want culture to continue. It's the culture of stopping. You need to be able to take a break. And these masculine traditions of sitting down next to a fire with your dog at your feet and having a glass of something and perhaps a cigar, um, those things are about, well, why can't we go talk to daddy right now? Because daddy's having his moment, right? And that's the overall idea behind all of this, is to say, as men, we have to find these rituals and rituals of spirit, which is right on the box. These rituals are important because they help with our mental health. Now, we just said it, we just talked about it. Drinking has to be done responsibly. But if it's not a crutch and it's a tool to get you to where you need to be, or it's literally this little 1 ounce pour cost $100. Please leave me alone while I enjoy something that I worked for. Depending on how much money you make every hour, I worked for 8 hours to pay for this. Please leave me alone and let me enjoy it in peace.
100
So
ounces of pour, man. We got to talk about this.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's a defensive mechanism, but I think men need to take this time. And the glass lines are about that, and the company's about that, saying, look, it's okay to be a guy, and it's also okay to need time to stop and take a breath and take stock, and whatever happens when you stop, that's the personal journey that you need to go through. And we're about protecting that. And
Yeah.
if you need some 15 minutes to just take a break and have a cigar, for me, I love cigars, and because the cigar is usually a half an hour thing, right? And I get a half an hour of peace where everybody leaves me alone.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah, there's something in general to be said about taking a step back. We do live in a world now where everything's so fast paced, everything's by comparison. We talk about better health, we talk about mental health, we talk about that. Well, recently, over the last 5 years, we've been really heavily speaking about mental health. And I think I hate going back to it, but during the pandemic, it really highlighted what
Yeah.
people were doing to distract themselves and compensate for whatever had going on. And to your point about like taking that moment, I do think that is important. I think that in general, making sure that give yourself the opportunity to decompress. And if the overall goal of the glass and the weight is because it takes effort, takes concentration, short of me breaking a glass every 2 minutes, I have to pay attention to what the fuck I'm doing,
Yeah.
right? With
It,
your product. I mean,
it's
shit in general. You can't even mix drinks sometimes at home without fucking paying attention to what you're doing, right? Uh,
exactly.
Anything worth doing takes time.
Yeah,
Um, but
absolutely.
I think that's a unique and cool idea that you're kind of imposing that like slow down,
Slow down.
slow the fuck down. Because if not, you're gonna break everything, so you have to slow down.
Or you're going to drop it on your foot and really hurt yourself.
Uh,
Right.
Shit.
But my
Yeah, just
experiences,
realize how painful that would be.
my experiences with stopping,
Mhm.
one of the things that almost always happens when I stop and I just sit and I normally do this on my back deck. I look around my backyard and I see my trees and I see my lawn and I see the little garden that my wife and I have planted. And almost without exception, if I just get a half an hour to stop, I
Mhm.
immediately start being grateful. I start looking around and going, wow, this is awesome. I can just take a half an hour and I can have this cigar, which maybe costs, $5,
Mm,
$50. What doesn't matter. But I can take this time and I'm privileged enough to be able to just stop and take this all in. And it's so powerful for me to have a few minutes to just be thankful for all the stuff I already have. And it drives me nuts. It flies in the face of everything that I see on the internet every day, which is people are trying to convince each other that this is a horrible time to be alive, and it's not. It absolutely is not. We're in one of the best times, if not the best time, in human history to be on the planet and breathing. And it just gets skipped over and stepped on a regular basis. And that's another reason I think most people, if they just take a little break, they'll have an opportunity to get to that place of being of gratitude. And if you can be grateful just once or twice a day, it changes your whole outlook on everything. It really does. It really does, because then you're not walking around under this cloud anymore. Yeah, bad stuff happens, but that's
mm,
not the norm. It's
yeah.
the exception, not the rule, especially here in North America. There are places where people are really struggling, and I understand that, which is all the more reason for us to be even more grateful for what we're doing here, right?
Mhm. No, and I think, I mean, I spoke I spoke about it a little bit earlier. There's so much pressure to be something compared. I think I've heard it recently where you're comparing yourselves to like a facade of things and hurrying up and rushing and not taking time to appreciate the things you have. You're always worried about what's next. Hell,
Yes.
I will be the first person to tell you that I joke, not joke. Um, at my job, I'm not going to say where I work. People are like, hey, Arthur, how are you doing? I was like, every day above ground's a good one. Like, like I appreciate the fact that I was able to roll out of bed, get out, have a beautiful fiance, two loving dogs, and my family, and everyone's still safe. And every day above ground's a fantastic day. And I it's sudden. I think at some point just recently, it started really dawning on the people I work with that I mean that.
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's not just
it,
pedantry. It's
yeah,
not common.
yeah, it's not just like, oh, hey, how are we doing today? It's like, and when you switch it up, they have no idea what the fuck you said. I was like, no, I mean that shit. It's important to understand that, like, if you allow yourself to wallow in self pity and worry and scared and like thinking about shit that you have no control over, like I'm not saying I'm not guilty of it. I, I will never say that I've never been guilty of that moment where you worry about
Well,
something that hasn't happened yet. That's human nature. I'm not by any means saying I've never worried. I think that one of the things that I at least realized late in, not late, but like maybe my 30s, maybe late 20s, was I will focus on I will focus on what I can control. If I can't control it, then why am I stressed about it?
yep.
If I can control it, then fucking fix it. Like like
Yeah.
there are several options in life, and like all of these are yours. I mean, a lot of them are yours. You could decide how you want to react to it. You can't decide what everyone else does. You could enjoy the things you have. I there are moments that it's just me. Prior to even being with my fiance and significant other, I appreciated the fact it was me and my dog, a TV. I didn't care about anything else. I could sit
Yep.
there for 35, like all day, just, I'm gonna pet my dog. Hey man, you want to come out tonight? No, I got plans. It's just me petting my dog and hanging out with my dog. Like,
Yeah.
there's an appreciation to slowing down. And as we've gotten further in life and all this, technology and pressures and social media and just news articles and some influencer and something else and some podcast, not this one. We are very positive. Like we want everyone to be happy, just buzzed and responsible. Like there's just so much more. And I think um, it's been detrimental. So I think that it's great, especially in that concept of slowing the fuck down. Um, and there is, I will say out loud that there, it's not a common thing. Not everyone. I think that there has been conversations where people feel like, oh, it's not okay to be a dude anymore. Like
Yeah.
you have to be a certain kind of way. But I'm also the type of person that I think that there's somewhere in the middle that people don't ever acknowledge. Not you, I'm saying in general, when you see social media, there's always an extreme. You can't be a guy. You can't be strong, blah blah. It's like, oh, you have to be this way. It's like, why do we have to be like just square or circle? Like, why does that, like, there's a fucking point where you can be sensitive, but I will still kill someone.
Sure.
I will cry at my wedding, but I will choke someone. Like there's stuff like that. We could do
Yeah.
this all day. Um, but I do think it's important that you highlighted that, especially as ex-military, ex-firefighters. You guys go through a lot of stressful situations, man. I didn't mean to overtake, but I think that I want to highlight some of the things that you didn't necessarily mention. Those roles that you've worked in are very high stress, high pressure. You get shot. I don't know your roles in the military. We're not here to discuss these things. Just saying. Like, but firefighters, you put yourself on the line of duty, and there could be a and whether we say it out loud or not, I think a lot of people deal with mental health stuff. So if that's the approach, I don't see a problem. That's obviously drink responsibly. Like, and I think the product forces you to take a breath, to look around and take a moment. So that in its concept is brilliant. I like it.
It's those rituals, right?
Yeah.
I now have my thing in the freezer, and I go, and it's no different than getting a cigar out of the humidor and taking off the cellophane, pulling off whatever you have to pull off, taking it to your cutter, cutting it, getting your lighter, these are the rituals, right? These are the things that we do that have us go into that Zen moment and go, okay, I'm doing the things that I need to do. It's no different than prayer. It's no different than exercise. It's what you need to do to get your mind to focus on the immediacy of what I'm doing right now and let everything else fucking go for just a minute. Just let it go.
Yeah.
Right. You were just talking about like different, like, if I can't control it, why am I worrying about it? And worry is something that I try, out of all the things I try not to do, it's worrying. Because you can't worry about something that's in your control. You're literally wasting time, tearing yourself up, dumping cortisol into your body for something you have absolutely no control over. If there was one thing I could get everybody to stop doing, it's worrying. Because by definition, you're thinking about something you have no control over.
Yeah.
It's the
Or something that hasn't happened yet.
It's the biggest waste of time in the world. You can't control it. Let it go. Move on to
100%.
something you can control. Think about something else. Just and move on. And this ritual of sitting down, having a cigar, pouring it, even selecting it, going up to your bar and going, what do I feel like tonight? I love that because it's about me. I get to take me time and focus on what I want for a little bit of time. And that's important. I think guys need to do that more. And it's not selfish. It's self-preservation, man. It really is.
Yeah. And I make jokes about I probably spend more time looking and thinking of what I'm going to drink than drinking it. Like, ooh, what recipe should I try? Ooh, blah, blah. And I quietly love that part of it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I don't know what I'm gonna drink. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what I'm pour. I don't know what I'm going to post today. I don't like that process and getting there. Like, what's the phrase? It's the journey is more.
Yeah. Oh God. Now I'm
Fuck yeah. Why did I blank on a common ass term? Am I old? Yeah, I'm old. It's not about the destination, it's about the journey.
That's it.
Yeah. So getting there, like all that in between is great because yeah, I made the drink. I drink it in 5 minutes. Cool. But the research, the mixing it, having fun with it, trying it, flavor profiles, all that. Or hey, I remember this bottle. Oh, do you remember when we sat around? Yeah, we can do this all day. Let's take a quick break, rehydrate, get some more stuff in our glasses. And when we are back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the trajectory of his company organization. I know we talked about you being in the military, firefighter, and just what attracted you to these paths. Kind of getting to know you a little bit more, the man behind the brand, because so often we see a logo and a brand and just go, "Oh, that's dope," and not realize that there's a fuck ton of hours, fuck ton of time, and a lot of experiences behind it. Guys, we're going to come back. We got to keep the lights on, and Sugar Mama is always asking for patronage. So, Midnight Fables Cabaret commercial coming up. Be right back.
Sponsor of Bourbon and Bullshit, Big Bang Boom Collective is Orlando's burlesque and cabaret entertainment group, comprised of Midnight Fables Cabaret, Big Bang Boom Cabaret, and Foxy's Den. Follow us on Instagram at Big Bang Boom Collective, or join our VIP email list for info on upcoming shows by visiting www.bigbangboomcollective.com.
Every time I do her commercial, every time I play her commercial, I have someone hit me. I was like, I love her voice. You know how weird that is for me to hear that? Because that's like a little sister to me. Not you, but I'm remembering my good friend Amanda, who I just came back from Mexico with. She's like, oh, I love Aurora's voice. I was like, stop it. That's weird. She is like a little sister to me. Like, stop it. It's weird. But every time I do the thing, I was like, I think about all the friends. I was like, I love her voice. Stop it. Stop it.
You don't want to go there.
For the record, Tom did not say anything. I just heard the commercial and remembered my friend Amanda making that comment. I was like, I gotta address her. Um, so, Tom, we talked a little bit about, you said you were ex-military,
Yeah,
ex-firefighter in all these, and then you ended up fucking making glasses, but that's a passion project.
it is.
There has to
It
be a
is.
trajectory there. Like, what got you into the military? I don't know shit about Canada other than Mounties, snow, and that there's a lot of maple syrup everywhere. These are all jokes. I know more. But tell me about the trajectory in that path, man. How'd you end up there? Military first, I guess, because that's where it started.
Uh, Military was 9/11.
Okay.
I was 33
Mm.
when 9/11
You
happened.
joined later
I
in
joined
life.
late. I went into Canadian infantry when I was 35.
Really?
Yep.
I did not know that. What were you
Yep.
doing prior? That you were just like, fuck it, I gotta go.
19 guy.
Oh, you were the man.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
an interesting jump. What I don't, I'm not this saying shit about 9/11 before someone hits me up with hate mail. Nothing negative, but to go
Yeah.
at 35.
Yeah. It was one of
Okay.
those things where I was at the age where I knew if I was going to contribute, it had to be soon because being operational overseas it's grueling. It's grueling.
Mm.
And I never did tour because I was through my secondary. I was basically through all of my training, and I came down to my left knee wrong and tore my LCL. And then because of where I was, I couldn't get to a doctor in time to get it properly diagnosed. And by the
Mm.
time I got back and I was someplace where I could get an MRI, it had already healed fairly substantially. And I went to a couple of doctors and my main doctor at the time, and he's basically like, we can't, imaging of your knee right now is pointless because it's been healed and it's scarred up. And I said, well, how do I know if it healed right? He goes, go take the course again. If your knee blows out again, then you didn't heal right. And that's exactly what happened. I went back and I did the thing and I blew my LCL again. And my doctor basically looked at me and said, if you try it again, you might end up walking with a cane. So I got in to get in a fight. I got in a fight with my knee and I lost. And I never ended up touring. And
Okay.
a lot of the kids that I went through, because remember when I went through, I was 35 and everybody I was going through basic with was like 20.
Mm.
Right. So I was like father figure. I got all the crappy detail. I was always the leader, stuff like that, just because I was more mature. And almost to a man, all of those guys toured. They all went over, they got in gunfights, they did the work. And all of those guys to a man all have horrific PTSD, which I dodged in my military service, but got in spades through my firefighting. So yeah, that's basically how it happened. I was working at a company called Goldcorp in a big tower in downtown Toronto when the planes hit, and everybody was terrified because we were, Toronto. It's
Toronto's
one
not far
big
away.
city. Everybody who was in a big city anywhere in the world at that point in time was waiting for the planes. We didn't know what was going on, and that terrified me. And I think, like a lot of men, a lot of people at that time, it pissed me off. It really pissed me off. I don't remember being that palpably angry at something that was as vague as that side of the planet at the time.
Mm.
Um, but it stuck with me. It stuck with me a lot. And I saw a lot of people. I wasn't a firefighter at that time, but my business partner in the firefighter training software company, he was. And I know lots of guys who went down from Canada and worked at Ground Zero and now have a plethora of health issues, but they went down there and did the work right beside everybody who was there. And I felt like I needed to contribute, so I gave it a shot. But that's how the military thing came around. And then
Yeah.
after I got out, my knee healed up to the point where I felt confident and I was running and I was physically active. So it's like, well, why don't I try being a firefighter?
Mm.
And I went down that rabbit hole for about 3.5 years. And then the job just simply, the fire training job just became so demanding. I couldn't do both. I had to pick a career. So I ended up, I got the certifications I needed. I did some interior work, but I was at enough crash scenes and multi-vehicle accidents so that I ended up seeing enough stuff to give me some problems, which
So how long
I,
were you doing the firefighter thing?
3.5 years.
Okay.
3.5 years. So it was 4 years infantry, got out, let my knee healed up, got healthy, lost some weight, went through firefighting. I was firefighting for 3.5 years, or about 3 years.
So
And
8 years total before you were done with that kind of
before I
stuff.
was done with it. Yeah. And needed to get some help, got the help I needed, talked to some people, and now have reconciled it. But some of my friends are still struggling. So
Yeah. When you
part
said
of me, part of me is actually grateful that I didn't get a chance to tour.
yeah, I can imagine, especially if you saw your friends go through that. We have a lot of friends who are ex-military, some more fortunate than others, and
Yeah.
the show has a lot. One of my favorite brands is Four Branches bourbon.
Yeah.
That's a that's a brand that speaks a lot to me. I have a lot of family up north that joined the military. Heck, 9/11 got me to the point that I was going to join, and some other stuff got in the way. That's not today's episode. But I understand, and that firefighting, military, EMTs, nurses, like these, they see some shit. Actually, the episode we just recently released is Bourbon and Nursing, that they have seen some shit.
Yeah.
Obviously, firefights are completely different. We have some ex-military people who are coming up soon, including yourself, but we have like U.S. military that's coming up soon, and they have like, hey, we got some dark stories. Is that appropriate? And I'm like, we could do the bonus features. We could do the after dark stuff. We could do that. But they've even openly said, like, there might be a minute where I can't can't continue talking about it. So are we cool with, like, if I say we're done, we're done? I was like, you're the boss. I'm hanging out.
That's pretty normal for that, because you kind of, it's like feeling around in the dark and trying to figure out what something is.
And then you
Right.
no, that's fire. Like, oh, that's bad.
What's this? Is this, does this hurt? Oh, I remember that. The biggest problem I had when I would talk about it is I would talk about it tangentially, and then remembering something would trigger another memory from another place that I hadn't dealt with yet, and it would kind of knock me off balance.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of people who have PTSD compartmentalize it, but they also wipe it. It just disappears. There's whole crime scenes I don't remember. Especially adults.
It's like a form of
Adults I don't
self-preservation.
have, yeah, adults I don't have a lot of worry about. Kids and animals were always my weak spot. Kids and animals always had the biggest impact on me emotionally when I was firefighting. It was the hardest thing to deal with because they didn't ask for any of it.
Yeah.
Almost 100% of the time, if it's a kid or an animal, some idiot got them in that situation. Right. And it's hard to watch that. Right. It's usually an adult who hasn't done their job, or an owner who hasn't done their job, or been, either ignorant, absent, or abusive. And those were the ones that always got me.
It's man, we talk about that. Actually, a good friend, Brixta, he's ex-military as well. But we were talking about the fact that, like, there are some things I don't envy and not envy, don't pity. I'm not saying I don't feel bad when people pass. I'm not saying that at all. But, like, to your point, dogs like, I'll simplify it to movies. We're gonna make it a little lighter. A dog that, like, there's an unwritten rule for movies: you don't kill kids, you don't kill dogs.
Yeah,
and that's like universally, like, we don't fuck with that. Even in the most gory, crazy, beat someone in a slumber bag. What the fuck am I talking about? Sleeping bag. Yeah, slumber party. That is a movie. A sleeping bag, a Jason style. Like, we don't kill kids and we don't kill dogs.
Nope.
I think that's just universally accepted as, like, all of us are, hey, we don't get along for whatever reason. We might not get along, or we do get along. We all agree: don't kill kids, don't kill dogs. All right, cool. Don't kill the animals. Let's go. I mean, to this day, fucking one of the saddest things I remember seeing just as a young adult is the Arms of an Angel video from, like, ASPCAs and shit at fucking late at night.
Oh God, those things still get me, man.
Yeah.
The puppies in cages and the cats who, like, got fur missing, and I'm just like, I volunteer at my local humane society. So,
and not to, like, just to lighten a little bit, make sure we're all good. But that's that can't be easy to deal with. And So then how do we end up here? So you started making a tech body armor, started making tactical gear, you started doing all this to kind of give back to the military. So what was like, I mean, it feels like a logical step, but walk us through that.
Well, it really was proximity. So after going through those things, you hang around with people who are doing those things. And if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So,
Here,
uh,
here.
right. One of my other companies does credit card processing, websites, and business consulting for the firearms vertical. So if you're a sporting goods store, you sell guns or anything like that, you're notorious for being lumped in with porn and weed, which is fine. But it's really hard sometimes to get credit card processing if you own a gun store. And
Both very profitable.
some companies won't build you a website if you're a gun store. And because I was around firearms in the military, I kind of fell into that world. I go to SHOT Show in Las Vegas every year in January, which is one of the biggest sporting goods and gun shows in the planet. So I was in that community, and everybody in that community was doing these things and going, well, I just spent the last 4 years of my life behind a gun. What's transferable skills do I have? Well, I can probably sell guns or make something to go on the gun or right. So
Or something to help
that's
you
how I
not
fell into
die
that.
from the gun. Like,
Yeah, right. Or a guy, guys making ammunition and stuff like that. So, and there's a lot of guys went into training. They went into firearms training, and they started stuff like schools where they would train people on how to shoot and how to do self-defense and stuff like that. And it just turned out that I was with the right group of people to start up the company. When we didn't start the armor company, we bought another company. That was the guy who was doing it. He was transitioning into doing armor for vehicles and was getting out of personal protective equipment. And we bought that company. But the process of doing that, there's a certification body in the United States that basically certifies body armor all over the world. It's called NIJ. It's National Institute for Justice. But when you buy a company that had certifications from them, when you move the manufacturing facility and you start manufacturing again, you have to recertify. So we bought an existing armor company, moved it, and went through the process of getting our NIJ certifications again. We're still doing that. We just got our first certification for our level 4 plate. But the problem is NIJ right now is going through a recertification, and there's a huge backlog. So it's impacting us because we're not on the NIJ website, which is the gold standard, right? But we'll get there. It's bureaucratic delay. But that's how we ended up getting into that, because we already had friends in the gun company and had firearms companies, and I was just in that world. And those are the things that happen when you hang around in a garage long enough, you're probably going to start turn wrenches and do something to your own car.
you know what? That's fair. That's fucking great turn of phrase. Like, hang around in the garage long enough, you're gonna end up turning a wrench.
We are who we hang around with, man. The people in our inner circles have the biggest influence on us. And all my friends were cops, military, or firefighters.
Did you listen to our Bourbon and Barbells episode with the two athletes, and one's a doctor?
No, I didn't. I didn't actually.
Shame on you. So there's two female athletes. One is like fourth in the world for Pan Ams for weightlifting in masters. The other is a doctor, former CrossFit athlete, like collegiate athlete, all this, like they're fucking badasses.
Nice.
But we talked heavily about finding your tribe, because the people you hang around with, the people you spend the most time with, you will be that. Yep. You hang out with a bunch of drunks, which shouts to some of my old friends. I love you guys. I appreciate you. Like some of my current friends. You're gonna be a drunk. Yeah. If you hang out with people who are athletic and watching their figure and going to sleep at a certain time and doing all this, guess what the fuck you're gonna do? Because all your friends are asleep. Like all the people are doing the same thing. If you hang out with nothing but businessmen and people who are pushing for next goals and pushing for all that, that's who you're gonna be. If you're a family man around a bunch of family men and family people and a bunch of kids, you're going to be spending a lot of time at Chuck E. Cheese and kids' birthday parties. Yep. So find a tribe and stick to it. So it makes sense. You spend that time with those people and you find a hole to fit. You find a place where that could make sense, and you could be that bridge for people, especially in your kind of frame of mind. And you said called yourself a serial businessman or a serial business owner.
It's terrible. If I see something that is worthwhile doing, I'll usually start up a corporation and try to make money to do it.
Listen, if you just want to throw samples, including body armor with Bourbon and Bullshit's logo, I will give you the address. But we're gonna do things a little bit different, guys. We're gonna close out part 1 of this episode. We're gonna do so this way when we come back to part 2, it feels all seamless and good to go. Tom, hold tight. We're gonna say bye to the audience. Make sure we'll come back for part 2. Make sure that you guys are liking, subscribing. Wow, there is confetti going on.
That's a Mac thing I forgot about.
How did you do that? On our way
on
out,
a
there are
Mac,
fireworks. If I do something, what do? This? I'm not a Mac. Oh, I see it.
it's only on Mac. Zoom on Mac does this if you hold your thumb up, and if you do 2 thumbs up, you get that.
Well, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, we will be back. Not of all ages, you have to be drinking consent, drinking age here. This isn't a Drake house. Yeah, shouts to Canada. We'll be right back. But tune in next week for part 2 of Bourbon and Heavy Drinkers. Heavy drinker. I am a heavy drinker. We're gonna get to know Tom a little bit more. Tom, say bye to everyone here where they can find you real quick. And we'll be back in a moment.
Thanks, everybody. Heavydrinker.ca.
All right, that was quick and easy. See you guys next week. Take care.